have a board and a managing director, and we have 3 directorates. That means we have 3 executive directors. The Port Authority was established in 1954, and there is an act there which I know there have been attempts to modify. The next slide actually is talking about the same thing. So you have the board, you have the executive management, and under the executive management in each directorate, you have a general manager, and then you have divisions and departments. And then you have a port management. The ports are 7 ports now with the addition of Lekki, and that is Lagos Port Complex, Rivers Port, One Port, Tinkan, Delta, Calabar, and Lekki Deep Sea Port. Each of the ports has a port manager, and then an administrative structure with accountants, with auditors, traffic, harbors, and so on and so forth. The Nigerian Ports Authority before 2006 had a mandate. The mandate was to provide and operate port facilities to be used, in marine businesses. We were maintaining and regulating the use of the ports by all users, and our responsibility then was also to develop ports, greenfields in particular. Apart from ensuring efficient management of the ports, we were ensuring optimal utilization and allocation of resources. Of course, revenue was always part of the Nigerian Ports Authority, even though its core function is that of trade facilitation. Then, of course, our responsibility was also to ensure berthing, towing, mooring, and redocking of vessels and ships entering into the waters. The Nigerian Ports Authority was responsible for cargo handling. That is both loading and unloading of cargo and also passenger traffic. We are responsible for sorting and warehousing of cargo before concession. And then we were responsible for ensuring safety to navigation in terms of approaches to the ports. So we were providing illumination within the ports, ensuring there were buoys in terms of markers, navigational aids within the channels. We were managing all other activities within the ports, and then we were providing towage services, salvage of wrecks, and then also when there are accidents. The Nigerian Port Authority was responsible for supplying water, that's fresh water, to vessels. Most vessels actually are on the high sea for over a month. Within that period, they need fresh water. So one of the responsibilities of NPA was to provide water. It is taken for granted that there will be pollution by all vessels coming to the port. So we were responsible for controlling pollution arising from oil spills and other things from vessels. We were maintaining the channels, both in Lagos, Bonny, Calabar, Warri, and so on and so forth, both capital and maintenance ready. However, post-concession, before the concession, the Nigerian government brought in the World Bank to provide consultancy. And that consultancy looked at, in those days, you could have vessels at fairway buoy for upwards of 3 to 4 months or 5 months. People were bringing in cement that was kicking while in the vessel at the high sea. And the consultants suggested and recommended a change in the operations of the port. And that's what brought in concession. And some of the responsibilities of Nigerian Ports Authority were actually given to third parties. So therefore, the responsibility of Nigerian Ports Authority was outsourced. So some of its functions were given to terminal operators, for instance, for cargo handling. So loading and unloading of cargo was actually outsourced to a third party, and that's why you have terminal operators. And then sorting and weighing of the cargo and warehousing, it was also given to third party, which is the terminal operators. And then the efficient, so the responsibilities of the authority were now designed to provide efficient ship-to-shore operations, customer-friendly environment, and then we were now asked to concentrate on ensuring that we comply to all IMO, ISPS, and other international codes. Our mandate also now includes currently regulating marine businesses and promoting port security and safe havens for vessels within the port premises, achieving adequate return on investment, increase in cargo traffic, maximizing revenue, reducing costs, and so on and so forth. The policy and program priorities of Nigerian Ports Authority we felt should be anchored on something, and therefore we are driving our own strategic policies based on people, technology, and infrastructure. The Nigerian Ports Authority has some of the best trained staff in civil service. They are quite qualified. All they need is encouragement, and they will deliver actually. In terms of technology, we are anchoring our achievements on the need to bring in technology, digitize the system, reduce manual processes, reduce cost, and improve efficiency. The world is going digital, and NPA is also doing that. Infrastructure and equipment, there is need for us to improve the quality of physical infrastructure, increase the depth of our channels and the width, reconstruct the collapsing ports. Some of the ports, one of the ports is over 100 years old. The other ones have reached their lifespan. They are over 60 years old. The normal lifespan is between 45 to 50 years. Each of the ports, except probably the recently constructed berth in One, is over that. I will discuss about that. We also need to upgrade our equipment. Some of the tugs we have actually 30, 40 bullet pool. But they are bigger vessels now. We have vessels with LOA of over 300 coming into the country. So therefore, we need bigger vessels, bigger tugboats, stronger pilot cutters, and other equipment. The next slide. So in a bid to position the country and improve our competitive advantage, one of the strategies was to push the development of newer ports. All the existing ports in NPA are actually river ports. We all know what a river port is. They are actually on brown water. It means the cost of operations, the cost of dredging is extremely high. Some of the ports are located over 100 kilometers from the sea to the port itself. So that means if you are dredging, you need to dredge that channel. And therefore, the government, probably 15 years ago, came up with the possibility of building deep sea ports. But actually, Lekki, proper construction in Lekki started about 4 years ago, and that was encouraged by the last administration. It was commissioned last year before the last administration left. And then we have seen an increase in activity, and all of a sudden we now have a deep sea port with a natural draft of over 16 meters, which we don't have in Nigeria. And we are beginning to see that the dream of turning Nigeria into a hub is coming into reality. We are beginning to have transshipment cargo and all that. The next slide talks about the 6 ports we have and Tinkan. Now, there was need for us to also diversify our revenue, apart from the normal revenue coming from the usual marine businesses. And we felt there was need for us to start working on the creation of an independent power project. Our responsibility as a port authority is also to ensure that we provide electricity to all users of the port, terminal operators, and anybody that works within the port. When vessels come and berth, they are supposed to shut down their generators, their engines, and be plugged into electricity for as long as they are within the port. We also have lands that are being put to proper use and then development, because we have a lot of fallow land in some locations that have been encroached by communities and so on and so forth. We are encouraging the expansion of those locations for marine business only. Please cancel real estate, because those lands were purchased or acquired by government strictly for marine business, and in some places, if you use it for any other thing, you could have communal issues. Freshwater provision, I've mentioned, is one of our responsibilities. Ship repairs and maintenance. Currently, I think we have about 3 locations that have dockyards. None of them is commercially in use. And we are going into PPP to ensure that they are put to proper use. So the initiatives here are, the first one is aggressive port infrastructure and modernization, which I'll discuss. I'll just brush through this. Development of a smart port, fully automated smart port. And then ISO certification is something we have come up with. 2 or 3 of the ports have ISO certification currently. We are now working to ensure that other port locations are also ISO certified. Our core function and the department that is of our core function is harbors. So we pick that department and we're trying to ensure that it has ISO certification. And what it does, it adds to the rating of the authority. We have extended the automated traffic management system to the eastern ports. The one in Onye will soon kick off. The one in Lagos has been there for 2 or 3 years. Yes, it has its problems, but we can see that it has improved traffic control and management by at least 70%. But of course, the interference by Nigerians has made it quite inefficient. We have situations where people fake plate numbers and attach them to their trucks and so on. There are many ways, there is no need going through that, but there are many ways people have been truncating this by working on that. On export promotion, we are also working with the private sector. I will discuss it later. We are encouraging the use of multimodalism. We realize that over 90% of the cargo is taken away from the ports using trucks and is no more efficient. So we have encouraged the use of barges for movement of cargo from the ports to other off-dock locations. We are not in control of the rail system, but we know rail has gotten into Apapa and the cargo is being moved by rail, but the Nigerian Railway Corporation needs to have more stock, that's more wagons to carry more containers. The one into Tinkan is being worked on. So in terms of trade facilitation and ease of doing business, there have been opportunities such as the barge operations. It has created values of over 2 to 3 billion per annum in terms of business quantum. We have licensed additional truck parks to increase capacity. So for our truck call-up system, what we did, we advertised for private individuals that have spaces and truck parks that can contain not less than 100 trucks to show interest, and we gave them licenses and created brigades. So we have seen a reduction in the truck turnaround time. It's easier for trucks to get into Lagos ports and come out because we have created so many truck parks that are linked to the truck call-up system. We created a minimum safety standard for all trucks going into the ports. We have realized that when driving, whether you're going to Sokoto, Kaduna, Ilorin, wherever you see a broken down truck, it's because probably it's not of good quality. So, and then carrying a container and it's broken down. So what we did was to say, okay, why don't we ensure that only quality trucks that meet certain standards get into the ports? That means if you do that, first of all, it reduces the movement of that truck from the port to its location, or you reduce the issues of breakages along the port corridor. And we are working with Federal Road Safety Commission to ensure that this minimum safety standard is put in place. Formally, we review the safety standards every year, but we've decided that now it should be every 6 months. Of course, Nigerians have found ways to beat it. They are forging the stickers and faking plate numbers and all that, but we are working on that. We have seen a 65% reduction in number of accidents recorded arising from this improved truck quality. We have standardized operational procedures for everything to do with barging, private jetty, pilotage, vessel and berthing, and some of this information is on our website, which is quite friendly and quite informative. We've gone ahead to start working on infrastructural and equipment renewal. The control towers they are seeing there were built in early 70s, and they have not been operational because the radar and communication system was faulty. It was built by Julius Berger, I think in 1972 or 75, but we have renovated it and re-equipped it. The essence here is to improve communication between vessels coming in and our harbors department. We have deployed security patrol boats across all the ports. The essence here is to ensure security within the waterways and then within the port vicinity, which is our responsibility. Anything outside that is that of the Navy and the NIMASA. We have been seeing increase in pirate attacks even within the port environment, and there was need for us to improve security because that would ensure that our ports become more competitive. We have bought more tugboats and pilot cutters. These are things that are needed to bring in vessels on time and reduce vessel waiting time. We have achieved, we have acquired new tugboats. This 80 bulletproof, we in Nigeria would like saying the first thing. So they said it's the first in Africa. I'm not sure of that, but I can just quote as I was said. But actually, these tugboats have the capacity to be in one place and do 360 degrees maneuver. Most of the tugboats can't do that. Now, these are the tugboats who have deployed to Dangote and Lekki because they are bringing extremely large vessels with heavy cargo, and there is need for maneuver, and then also it is on the high sea. So two things are going on here. You have extremely large vessels that are also not in stable water but in the ocean, so they need to be properly handled. We have brought in aids to navigation, especially in channels in Warri and Calabar Palliative districts. They were practically non-existent either because of community vandalism or nature just sends them out and they go adrift. We have deployed new ones and it's being monitored. We have worked with the communities to encourage them to please not steal these things and turn them to scraps as they do now. That's a major challenge we have in the south where this is happening, sorry, in the east. We have worked with the International Maritime Organization to deploy what they call the port community system. So it's not just the first phase. Actually, the third phase has been done and it should be delivered to the minister. The report should be delivered to the minister on the 13th of February. The port community system actually is a platform that brings in automation and interaction between all stakeholders within the maritime industry. We believe this will be a catalyst for the deployment of the national single window. The IMO provided consultancy. The first two stages were free, and then NPA paid for the two other stages. So I'm happy to announce that that has been concluded. The next level now is to do, they're also giving us the RFP for us to tender. It's quite restrictive. There are very few companies in the world that do this, and we're already in touch with them. There's automation of port ship reception and billing system. We call it RIMS, that's the Revenue Invoice Management System. It helps us increase our revenues, reduce leakages, reduce manual raising of bills, and so on and so forth. The electronic manifest and ship entry notice, that's eSend. Now, ships coming into Nigeria can electronically apply and get approvals without necessarily sending, faxing, or email. So we have automated that system. I have talked about the traffic management system. NPA operates an Oracle e-business system. We have Oracle Finance, Oracle Hyperion, Oracle HR, and so on and so forth. This is automation that we put in place to ensure accountability and proper automation of all our systems. We are working on automating harbor system here. Instead of having the normal, regular berthing meeting that is physical, we are automating the system. This harbor automation will help us electronically deploy resources. It becomes very easy for you to know this vessel, when this vessel leaves at XYZ time, the other one at the fairway boy is coming in at so time, where do you deploy your tugboats, your mooring men, and so on and so forth. We have been working with the NLNG to deploy what they call a vessel traffic service, which is the VTS. It's a domain awareness, it gives us domain awareness capability to guide us, provide safety information on vessels coming in. This will also improve monitoring of vessels and reduce the dark activity by vessels in the channels. If we deploy this, which is a requirement by IMO and a lot of the international maritime agencies, Nigeria will be amongst one of the few countries that have it. I think in Africa there are only about 4 or 5 countries have it already. So we're working with NLNG to deploy this. They have done the consultancy and will now go to the ministry and ensure that this is deployed. This will add value, create rating, increase safety, and then increase our revenue. Then we are equipping all the signal stations authority-wide to improve communication. We need to be monitoring the movement of all vessels coming into our channels. In some places in the south-south, some of the signal stations have to shut down by 4 o'clock for security reasons, and if you don't, naturally the boys will call you and ask you, why are you still on duty? Because they need to do some other things. But so what we have done, we've worked with the Navy to relocate some of the signal stations to some of their bases in the south-south. That way there is security, and then we have 24-hour operations by the signal stations. To work with the federal government towards achieving the aim of diversification of the economy and reduce and increasingly reduce our reliance on oil revenue, we have ensured that the Nigerian Ports Authority give all the necessary support for this. The Presidential Directive on Ease of Doing Business required that we should provide warehouses for export cargo within the terminals. But the ports are extremely small in size and there is no room for that. So we had to think outside the box, and one of the things we did was to advertise for private sector interested parties to bid for creation of export processing terminals. The essence of the export processing terminal is to create a one-stop shop where exporters can take their cargo, sort the cargo, get it tested, get it certified, get it packaged, and then approved, and then you put it into the container. And then from that export processing terminal, it goes straight to the port for a voyage. What it has done, it has reduced wastages, especially for perishable agricultural products. Instead of waiting on the queue to get into the ports, we are now ensuring that there's less wastages. Cargo meant for export spends less time before export, before voyages, and so on and so forth. And then we have seen a tremendous increase in exports, increase in the quantity of export cargo. So we gave out 10 licenses, and they are all operational. I think about 10 of them are operational. To enhance port security, we have established partnership with EU-funded WCAPs, which consistently comes to look at the risk potentials in our ports, and then reduce it, find ways to reduce it, and look at the vulnerability of our port infrastructure. And we have worked with them to also provide training and skills acquisition to our staff. We have synergy with Nigerian Navy, Nigerian Police, and the Army. The Nigerian Police have given approvals for setting up of Marine Police in other port locations that we didn't have Marine Police in the past. I've said some of these things here: engineering, infrastructure, and improvement or increase in operational capacity, where we are creating a signal station in Forcados. Forcados is one of the busiest locations once it comes to oil, oil business, movement of crude tankers and service boats. We have commenced and completed bathymetric survey for the dredging of Escravos Channel. This has not been done probably for upwards of 15 to 20 years, but we have ensured that that has been done from the Warri port itself down to Koko, Sapele, and other Aburutu, just to have an idea of the wrecks on the channel, the draft of the channel, so that it helps us to plan further dredging activities. And then the cargo holding bay, cargo holding capacity has been increased in Rivers Port. We have upgraded infrastructure in Wat One, which has increased capacity. We granted approval for the construction of 6,000 metric ton bitumen tank in Rivers Port. Next slide. And then so on and so forth. So construction and rehabilitation of control towers, which I've already talked to. Marine fenders are the rubber you see in front of the berth. A lot of them get missing, and then we keep having accidents by vessels, but now we have stock of it that is being deployed consistently, and in 2024 we also are buying it. They are likely to fall off into the ocean and go as part of the marine business, so we need to keep ensuring that they are available. Shore protection and rehabilitation of Escravos breakwaters. One of the major problems in Warri Port is the issue of the draft. There's a breakwater about 8.9 kilometers long. It started collapsing probably 10 years ago. But the last 2-3 years, it has really gone bad. I hear that at low tide, you can't even see the breakwater even at low tide. So Royal has finished the consultancy, the survey, the drawings, and the costing, so that we start reconstructing the breakwaters. And if we do that and it's completed, then that means we'll be able to properly and adequately dredge the channel, the Escravos Warri channel, to that draft limit of 7.5, because we can't go below 7.5 because of an active NNPC pipe that is along the channel. So you can't go deeper than that unless an NPC relocates that pipe. For staff welfare, increment in staff salaries, which stagnated for 15 years. It was increased last year, but with the current, excuse me, high inflation and cost of things, we are thinking of coming back to ask for more, but we are waiting for the committee on salaries and wage, and then we see how it goes from there. But just to inform the committee that we'll go to the Ministry of Finance, our own supervising ministry, and eventually come to you for your support. We have made a kind of anyway, we will come to you for that. Payment of pension, of course, we are never late. We have almost 8,000. The cost of training, but also increase the number of staff that we can train within our own facilities. It has capacity, I think, to train how many hundreds at a time? Yeah, probably about 200-300 staff at any given time. We have accommodation for 30 people. It has a canteen and a kitchen and so on and so forth. So we have our own training institute. We also have a bridge simulator there that if there is time we'll take you so you see it. This reduces the cost of sending people out of the country, using Forex to train them. The NIMASA, we are working with the NIMASA to give certification to the institute because that is their own responsibility. In terms of, if you recall, there have been complaints about those concession agreements, and we created an interagency committee with World Bank as the consultant, and then the Federal Ministry of Transport, then Federal Ministry of Justice, BPE, ICRC, Nigerian Ports Authority, and we have reviewed these concessions, and agreements have been reached in such a way that they will be amended in the interest of the country. We have worked with Afri-Exim and now UKEF towards the sourcing of funding for port infrastructure development. Excuse me. We are in need, can I have water? We are in need of about over 1.1 billion that is needed for rehabilitation of Tinkan and other ports. Tinkan is in a bad state. When we go out today, you'll see it. Under the same loan, we also rehabilitate the Escravos breakwaters, Apapa, and so on and so forth. We are working with IFC, Afri-Exim, and UKEF. We have gone very far. Even yesterday, we had a meeting with representatives of Citibank and UKEF. UKEF is UK Export Finance. We have signed an MOU when it comes to data integrity and ICT with the Bureau of National Bureau of Statistics as old as 50, 70, 80 years. So we created an archive department that digitizes these things and also stores the physical ones. We've upgraded our website. We have engaged IMO in the development of the port community system, as I have said. These are things I've talked about. Corporate social responsibility. We have provided functional sports facility. We have distributed in mass sewing machines, grinding machines, and empowerment tools probably all over the country. In existing litigations we have authority-wide, and we felt it is high time we sit down and settle some of these things out of court. And we have been able to achieve quite a lot actually. So the alternative dispute resolution is what we are using currently, and get a lot of things out of court rather than dragging for so long, because some of this we felt it's time we just reduce these things. We have a very good working relationship with our host communities and also the Senior Staff Association, Maritime Workers Union. Please let me clear my throat. The team we have in NPA is a team that is quite dedicated and further to the need to not just improve increase in revenues, growing from 361 billion in 2022 to 501 billion in 2023. Our remittances have increased from 93 billion in 2022, and as of December 2023, we have remitted 105.3 billion by year end. Revenue, the budget was 378 billion. We achieved 501, but it is divided also into four types of cargo. There is the cargo, there is the ship and concession and admin, revenue from admin and all that. We have the expenditure there, personnel costs 105.4 billion, but we know that the budget has been extended till till March, so we believe that this performance will increase across all the budget heads there. The next page, so these are all the budget heads and their performances. Increase in quality of service, which is superior, exceptional, and unique. One of the first things is the issue of importation through land border, especially as it relates to vehicles and what have you. We have seen last week, what's his name? Ascanio said they have seen 72% decrease in percentage or number of vehicles being imported into the country. 72%. That is really a lot. Now, for various reasons. So you can say it's the economy, but you can still see a lot of vehicles parked that are allowed to bring in vessels through the land border. When we met with the customs CG, I told him it's not normal for a Nigerian to bring in vessels into Cotonou, pay their duty, and bring it by land and pay duty. People are finding ways to beat it. What they should do is to create a bilateral agreement with Benin and whatever in Togo, and set up a desk where if you say this vehicle destination is in Nigeria, pay the duty there. And all of a sudden Nigerians will start bringing some of those vehicles here. But of course there are issues of cost and so on and so forth. Another problem we have is a directive granting 50% rebate on port charges to NNPC. We feel now that NNPC is a limited liability, this should be cancelled. We have been carrying this burden probably since 2015, 2016. The other argument we gave is, if in a year, our total rebate to NNPC is 20 billion. I don't know what's happening. We are therefore requesting that, drug, I think it's the commitment to pay, but if they don't, we'll come to the committee. But what we are saying is, this needs to be cancelled. We are written to the federal government, but the worry here is if this rebate is removed, it will increase the landing cost of the products they are bringing into the country. But we are at the receiving end of this for so long, and we are also collecting naira from NNPC instead of dollar. Also, NNPC pays us probably 5-6 months after the vessel comes in, so they're just getting away with it. So NNPC is owing over $10 billion and over 3 million as of September 2022. But we are handling it. But we just felt to give you notice. If they don't pay in the next 1 or 2 months, we'll come back to the committee on that. There's an urgent need for the operationalization of the national single window. However, the president has just set up a committee comprising Federal Ministry of Finance, Customs, Immigration, NPA, NIMASA, and so on and so forth, that will see to the deployment of the national single window. This will be a game changer. It will actually reduce manual interferences, discretionary rights by Nigerian custom officers, and it will increase revenue. It will bring in and improve efficiency. One of the major issues we have is the custom processes when it comes to cargo clearance. Custom has fragmented units. Custom will do examination. Just when you think you are done with them, as you are moving out, another unit of custom will stop you, arrest the cargo, or ask to go through the cargo again, go through your documents. It's not efficient. It's not done anywhere in the world, probably except Nigeria. In fact, I'm sure nobody does it anymore. And it's quite embarrassing. We have had situations where a vessel with probably 400 containers is leaving the port. We have given it the right, the approval, the master, and then just when it is leaving, out of that 400 containers, probably only 50 are carrying export cargo. And then a division of custom calls the vessel not to cast away, not to sail, just because of one container. They now bring that container So if it's at the bottom, they must bring it down. They examine it all over again, and this is done in 2 days. Meanwhile, that vessel is already scheduled to have visited another port in West Africa to carry cargo and all that. So, and the shipping lines are beginning to say, listen, if carrying your export is going to be creating this problem for us, then we don't want to carry your export. But another division in custom had cleared that cargo. Another one is saying, no, they haven't cleared it. So it's really causing problems for us. And then custom is still doing 100% cargo examination. How can that be efficient? It's not possible. So there's need for them to deploy scanners. We are thinking outside the box, sitting with terminal operators to say, okay, why don't you deploy the scanners? But the question is, okay, if I bring in a scanner, how do I get my money back? There's a $50 Naira equivalent that everybody pays for scanning to customs. So if customs can ensure that money is paid back to NPA directly to terminal operators, the terminal operators are ready to deploy scanners. As long as customs is ready to run them, they will maintain them. Because the problem is not bringing in the scanners. The problem is, will they even use them? We need to have multi-model systems of evacuation of cargo. It's important the National Assembly understands that the cost of goods in the shops is attributable to many things. If I pay 100,000 to clear a pack of something, my profit will be a profit plus that 100,000. And some of the things that are increasing this cost is the cost of transportation. Or how long does it take for me to clear my cargo? How much demurrage am I paying? So we need to find ways to reduce the cost of doing business at the ports. But I will get to it. The cost of business in the ports should not be attributable to Nigerian Ports Authority. The last time we increased our tariff was 1998, right? 1998. That was the last time, sorry, 1993 was the last time Nigerian Ports Authority increased its tariffs. But Nigerian Customs, even last week, have increased their own. NEMASA increases their own. Shipping lines have been increasing, terminal operators. But when NPA writes, we don't get approval. The last time we wrote, we got 15% towards the end of the last administration. But you don't increase tariff without stakeholder engagement. So we now waited. The government has come in, we have raised it, but we have been asked to wait. But we didn't even implement the 15% because it does not make sense. If I'm going to increase, we should have minimum of 30 to 35%. 15% is nothing, actually. There are too many functional overlaps at the port. Too many agencies doing virtually the same thing. The presidential directives on ease of doing business says, is it 6 or 7? But all of a sudden, you get a letter from the presidency, returning one, returning another, and then each of them comes and breaks themselves into 3, 4. So you have cumbersome, multiple number of agencies operating within the ports. And we believe that the Nigerian Customs needs to change their drive for revenue to that of trade facilitation, which is ours. We need to harmonize that goal between NPA and Customs. Yes, revenue is important, but ease of doing business needs to be put in place. Trade facilitation is the key thing and the most important thing. The effect it will have in the industries, in our homes and what have you, is much more higher than the revenue that Customs is consistently announcing. And we have worked with Customs. To be fair, the current CG Customs is amazing. He's quite supportive, and he seems to be making changes that are impacting positively to what we are doing. So I want to use this opportunity to commend him for that. And we have worked with him for them to adopt the World Customs Organization guidelines on transshipment, especially as it affects Lekki Deep Sea Port. And we have seen an increase in transshipment cargo. We have not been allowed to increase our tariff. There is an issue with the roads. Chairman and honorable members, I seek for your indulgence to please visit some of these roads. As we are going to the port, I want you to go through some of these roads. I want you to see how difficult it is to get to the ports. No matter how efficient we are, if you have an efficient customs service and roads that are not good, it will create delays actually. So the roads are under Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. Our supervising ministry, that's the minister, has gone to see the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. They have promised to give priority to these roads. There is need to declare a state of emergency on all the access roads. Nationwide, all access roads are bad, and that is not very good. Of course, here we're talking about the threshold for procurement limit. This is an operational organization. You need to do things ASAP. You need to buy things quickly. You need to provide, the procurement process is quite cumbersome. Our limit is what, 20 million? It used to be, is it 2 million? Until it was increased recently to 20 million. That means if you want to buy a truck of diesel, you know what it takes, the process. We are not even talking about changing navigational aids and so on and so forth. But there are agencies of government who don't have this lower threshold or even have no limit. But they are not operational like us. So we think this should be revisited actually. There are also conflicting legislations among sister agencies. NPA and the MASA have conflicting legislations, NPA and NIWA. So you find that we have to, as CEOs, sit down amongst ourselves and find ways to manage it.
Ports and Harbour is there for you to support you to succeed. If you succeed, it's to our benefit. If you don't succeed, it's not to our benefit. So be rest assured that whatever thing that you bring up that will help NPA to succeed, we're going to get it. If there are areas that we will amend and come up with we'll come up with a new act, we are going to do it, in conjunction with the stakeholders and the agency. NPA is not just operational. NPA is also a regulatory agency, because since the concession of the ports, we are now oversighting the operations of the port. So NPA, a lot of people think that NPA is just an operational, is also regulatory. Okay, so we're interested in the port rehabilitation, because we believe that with the proper port rehabilitation, there's going to be increase in revenue. There's going to be ease of doing business. The agency, the Nigerian ports will be bankable, because if you don't have a proper rehabilitation of the ports, you can't be bankable. Because this is one of the agencies that the federal government is looking towards to survive through. Okay, federal government is interested in, and I'm also happy that there's also a plan for an aggressive rehabilitation of the ports. So what we're talking about now, like you just said, is how do you fund it? How do you pay back the loans if we've gotten? How do you pay it back? So we're also interested in the port. Okay, look, on the issue of port efficiency, we believe that we also need to do the health and the safety, the navigation, and we also need to upgrade the standard of the ports. You just mentioned about the issue of scanning. These are the things that I believe that will help to upgrade our ports. We can't afford to allow custom to be doing 100% manual. This business is our business. That's the issue of an agency in this aspect. If it's a revenue generation agency, so whatever you can, well, if you continue to do manual inspection, it reduces the number of containers. But if you have a scanning machine, it increases the output, increases the number of the efficiency of the ports, and that is the way to go. Knowing fully that there are a lot of countries that we're competing with right now, a country of about 200 and something million, but Ghana is even doing better than us. But the Republic is doing better than us. So it's a shame on Nigerians that we are not even doing anything about it. So we are here to support you in whatever we can do to make our ports viable and very effective. So, honorable colleagues, I think if we have one or two things to say, but I believe that what is important is for us to actually go and see things to ourselves and come back and see and sit down and know how we can support them. Because Nigerian Ports Authority is very dear to Nigerians, very, very dear to Nigerians, and everybody is looking up to you people here to generate more revenue for the country. And we can't afford it. It's a must that it has to increase. We're looking at triple digit increase from Nigerian Ports Authority. And the only way to go is to modernize it, upgrade it, and reconstruct the ports. So I want to thank you for receiving us, and I think we don't need any time. We just have to go.
Cargo is discharged and loaded. So this is apron, and like I was saying, what you have as back is the stacking area. And the stacking area, you can see that it is properly fenced. And the idea is to have additional security for cargo, so that the cargo is not exposed, taking into consideration the peculiar nature of our environment. And this is what you see. It's only it's part of the additional efforts of PTML to protect cargo. Of course, if you look around, of course, there are it's fitted with not just like CCTV, and from there, there's a central CCTV room that through which the terminal is able to monitor all the activities in all areas of the terminal. So down there is part 12. From there, the cargo is after discharge. As they have been discharged, they have been taken to the stacking area. Of course, where we have the vehicles, you can see the vehicles. We have different types of cargo. We have the containers, we have the Ro-Ro units, and we have both the small and the big ones, cars, vans. So here is for trailers, plant equipment, and we have other parts of the terminal. The terminal is segmented into different areas for ease of cargo handling. Of course, the containers are first discharged here, and by way of the arrangement of customs examination of cargo, for ease of acquisition of the terminal, see where you do and do and do the only terminal that has its own dedicated when in Tinkan, there are about 4 terminals that is administered by the Customs Command in Tinkan, and in Apapa too, there's about 4 or 5 terminals that is administered by a single Customs Command. But in PTML, it's a single Customs Command for justice. Of course, it enhances operation with its own drawback, and so that's part of. So there are custom offices. You see the custom offices. So what we do basically is to drive the operations of the terminal on strictly electronic platform through the ease of by way at which cargo is located. Once the cargo is discharged from the discharge, this is the terminal. Okay, maybe I should introduce my colleagues. This is Mr. Luis da Silva, is the terminal manager, and Steve and the security CSO is here. So part of the key thing to drive the operations of the terminal is relying on electronic software, and that is true by way of discharge, be it vehicles, be it containers, they are scanning. So as they are being discharged, the terminal has its own facility that from the point of discharge, the barcode, all the units, even all the vehicles are with barcode. And with barcodes, once they are scanned, it promptly updates the status of the vehicles or the cargo. Let me use, be it container, be it general cargo, be it vehicles. And through that, customers right on rail network in our system, because we have access through the website. Our customers have access. Of course, they have been registered. They have access to immediately locate the status of their cargo. So when cargo are booked for examination, is it 24 hours? Book today, the next day.
What are you using now? physical examination?
Yeah, I'll come back, and these are the drawbacks. I'll come to the drawbacks of the challenge the terminal is facing. So in terms of making the ease of administration for customers, the invoicing system is a single platform. That is, when you come to deal with us as a PTML, you are using a single invoice to pay the shipping company to pay the terminal. You don't first finish with the shipping company and run. And to make that happen, we invested a lot of resources in what we call biometric assets. They are turnstile, and that's why you see the terminal that is devoid of human traffic going up and down. So through pre-registration of our customers, contractors, everybody, because there is a high level of ISPS compliance to ensure that at any point in time, the terminal is in position to account for, because let's say there is an emergency, the terminal should be able to account for, people in the facility. And that's the way to go. So based on that, for all the critical access points to the terminal, there is automatic turnstile that is accessed through biometric. So that means that we have to pre-register. I think we have over 1,000 clearing agents registered with us through biometrics. With all their biometrics, further to background check on the company before registered. And again, that combined as a kind of identity and transaction documents is so that when you are coming to release cargo, you don't need to come with any other document. Once you have the access card that defines you, that means the company already has a profile of and that tends to help us to have a kind of secured, not just in terms of the environment, but equally in terms of document integrity and related issues. So there are different sections of the terminal. Of course, the terminal is a multi-role, is a multiple platform to handle different of cargo, but we are known more for vehicles. We are rural, and in order to make provisions for avoid congestions and related issues, because vehicles are not stackable like containers, we have to extend the facility to a buffer area in my 2, and that has really helped to avoid congestion in and around the port, because what we have there is what is replicated there. There you have customs, you have shipping agency, you have the terminal operator. And the related cargo registered there, they are moved by badges. Now,
that's one badge.
Yeah, so which is because we've been on this for over 11 years of our operation, and the idea is to 2009, and the idea is to promote an eco-friendly, because by the time you want to use vehicles and other means to move, there's no way of course, part of our eco-friendly arrangement is to ensure that the terminal power supply is driven by gas turbine generator. This you will see at the other side.
So when you move from here, where do you discharge your own?
We have our own terminal. We have a facility off-dock that is waterfront. With waterfront, and it's the same cost. The customer is paying here, the customer is paying here. So it's not at any extra cost. And the idea is that it locates the service close to the doorsteps of the customers. And that means the customer from around Maitu do not need to come and have to the pressure here. Of course, with all this investment, we up to recent, through the principal, the major investor of the terminal, the Ramadi Group, they've invested in new ships, and the idea is to have economic of scale so as to drive the cost per unit down. But again, with all this investment, with all what we've seen there, and with all we are going to see in other parts of the terminal, of course, the terminal situations continue to be challenged. Challenged in the sense of the economic situation of Nigeria, by way of, we all generally talk about the value of Naira and the rising inflation. But that's just one part of it, because the other part of it is how the relevant government agencies have been going about to implement all this government policy. Of course, in 2014, Nigerian government came up with this national automotive policy as to encourage production and assembly of new vehicles in Nigeria. But as good as that is, the benchmark to use, or the parameter to look at, is that even when things were good in Nigeria prior to 2014, what is the quantity of new vehicles that are being imported? Who are the real people using the real vehicles, using the imported vehicles, the new vehicles? At best, when things were even good in Nigeria, the quantity of imported vehicles, new vehicles, is about 50,000 units. Now, whereas Nigeria as a nation, we're a country of 200 million people that continue mostly grow at 3% thereabout. And what we see is that there's no reliable public supply of vehicles. So an average individual, average family depend on own vehicle. So that makes used imported vehicles very critical to the economy. And what category of vehicle are we talking about? I'm sure I don't need to spell this. You have your constituent members, you know the kind of car. Even when you are assisting them to provide car to them, I don't think we are really providing them with 2015, 2017, 2002, 2003, 2005, 2000. I mean, at best, is who you like. By the time you are giving somebody a 2010 vehicle, his head is spinning. So when you take 2010 age limit to 2024, we're already talking of 14 years. Now, how has custom been implementing this? Today, when you import vehicle to Nigeria, by virtue of this administration of tariff by customs, the duty you'll be asked to pay minimum is 10 years. The law in one part says you can bring 12 years old vehicle in, and customs is saying, no, I can only allow you to pay 10-year-old. So that's already cut off. And in real sense of, in terms of affordability, majority of our people are using 15 years less vehicles that are still good looking running. So this, to us today, I try to present something that which you can easily see. As at 2021, for instance, we are doing around 18,000, 23,000 per month, and today we are struggling with 2,000 per. So in a year, for instance, a year that we are doing over 200,000 units, last year we hardly did 70,000 units. So now the impact is not only on us, and that's the issue that we need to be realistic about, because it's for Nigerian people. Of course, we are just a medium to gain in the access and position the units in the hands of Nigerians. But the impact is beyond the direct importer. Of course, for us as a company, it's affecting us, it's affecting NPA, because our fortune is tied to that of NPA. When we make the money, NPA gets the money, government gets the money. But beyond that, there are a lot of people that are involved. Of course, we talk of the contractors that depend on us. You can call them security, you can call them the cleaners, you can call them, people. We have all manner of, contractors. Because if you are talking of employment, if the company is talking about 800 people employment between agency and terminal, you have several thousands that are depending on us to feed them. Of course, I wish I can show you my tool. Before now, this is a terminal that delivers about 800, 1,000 units of vehicles per day. Now you are struggling with 20 units, 10 units. So you can imagine the food vendor, for instance. You can imagine the clearing agent. You can imagine the typewriter. You can imagine the person doing the photocopy. There's a whole lot of shade. And of course, it extends beyond our own gate. It goes to the panel beater, it goes to the body sprayer, it goes to the mechanic, it goes to everybody. And it goes to the spare parts dealer, because if I don't have the vehicles to use and buy spare parts, his business will not go on. So it's a multiplier effect for the economy. And that's why we are saying to customers, there are things you can control. The issue of exchange rate is a general issue. But when it comes to rate, customs should be able to look at the reality of the economy, and rather than be amplifying, no, I have to collect this one. Because by virtue of the policy, it is a policy of 2014. The situation of 2014 is different from the situation of today. So on that reality, we expect that there are two things that really impact on the value of duty being paid by Nigerians. Like the rate of duty that I've said. In ex-factory price reviews, there is a kind of adjustment in terms of valuation time. The law says the value 10% go up to 10%. Within 10 years, it is zero. And that's where the limit is 10 years. When the law is saying I can do 12 years, why deny me the right to pay appropriate duty for that year? And that's an impact.
So after 10 years, what are you supposed to pay?
Yeah,
if it's up to 12 years.
You pay the 10 years. Even if it's 18 years, you pay the 10 years. So, and that's the rule. So that means you are not even charging people the value of
what they are bringing.
What they are bringing. You are only imposing a figure that you assume should be the value. Then, levy. National automotive policy, because yes, it's good to promote indigenous capacity, but at whose expense? Because this levy is equivalent of almost
local,
but at the end of the day, it's killing the industry and the people. Because if the industry is such that it's producing at a level that can offset the difference, then you can see the value. But of all the listed car manufacturer, car assemblies in this country, you can check the figures. It's an open thing. What has been produced? And how many people are this serving? And I don't think it's serving the real majority. So that's just one part of the issue of what we call the rebate. They call it rebate. Because once you mention rebate, customers will understand. And once you mention levy, And those are the two critical elements, because the levy, I mean, the rate can be done in such a way that instead of 10%, you can still graduate and adjust in such a way that you accommodate the reality, because what you are talking about is reality. It's not something that is somebody is bringing up. Of course, the issue of levy should not apply, because in other West African countries, levy do not apply. So yes, Nigeria has its own domestic issue, but how are you taking care of the people? And that's part of why we say this with sense of reality. If you even look at the level of trucks, the condition of trucks flying Nigerian roads, they are subjecting Nigerians to death. I mean, you see it all over.
Let's go.
Chairman,
So
I'm thinking that when it comes to a situation like this that involves agencies, we are talking of NPA, there's also customs. We may be committee on ports and harbour, but by our rules, we can also find out, because
Committee on Customs.
exactly. So some of these things are things we'll also want to sit down and listen to the customs people and find out a middle ground or where there are challenges. So we may not take a decision here. We may not appreciate all the facts just by listening to you. So some of these things are things we'll also want to
We'll
sit
document
down.
them.
Through documentation, we'll see what we
No,
have.
it's not here.
We'll
But
see
this
what
thing is
we have.
saying about the levies and this thing. It's something that we need
So
to bring
the
up.
other side of the terminal situation is, of course, the port infrastructure. Unlike before, yes, we want to acknowledge NPA particularly when it comes to the issue of the immediate vicinity of the port. And of course, there is better record. Okay, let me talk of the infrastructure in terms of power. Of course, today the terminal is running on its own energy, which is at a very high cost. Diesel, gas, it's all high cost. So there's no reliable public supply. In terms of the port environment, it's still porous, and that continues to challenge the security of the port. So there is need for improvement.
So when this port was concession to you, what was the agreement?
This facility, this area that is
So that's
mapped
what they
out.
call common user
Common,
area.
I'm talking of areas that are outside our own control.
Okay.
Like the road. Of course, if you look at the road, I'm happy that you approached the port through the road. A lot of money has been spent.
The access road,
Yeah, fantastic. But is it available? There are still limitations to usage. There are still restrictions to usage. So the limitations in terms of all the activities that should not be on the road. Of course, NPA is trying to manage the outcome, but there are still fundamental issues that need to be addressed in terms of the parking lot or the trucks park that should not be out within this environment. Because today, there is a lot of electronic applications that you can be in very remote area. I mean, a lot of us are transacting business in Nigeria with foreign countries at instant. So if we are in Lagos, I can always book you, schedule you to come and load your container. You don't need to hang around there. So there are a lot of space.
but that was what you told me that you were planning to.
So those are
about the
things.
electricity or the truck call-up system.
Yeah, those are
We have
the
a truck
call-up.
we have a truck call-up system. The problem it has limitations. Attempts by Nigerians to beat it. There was a raid. We went to one of the truck parks and we found over 400 fake plate numbers. So you give this truck a ticket, it goes behind, change the plate number, use it, and
But you can advance.
so what we are
by-
now
you can
doing is
advance
now
by
we are now
engine
using
number.
QR. We are now using QR code. But if you use the engine number is not visible. They are all old phones. But we are now coming up with QR code on the ticket itself. If you use QR code, it becomes more difficult for people to abuse.
So
But
that's
also the control, because you see, in terms of enforcement, the Lagos State government is bringing in the police, the military, last man. Until you have the cooperation of these government agencies, you keep having compromises and abuses also. So what we are doing is we normally have virtual meeting with all stakeholders, I think twice a week. Wherever there are issues, we keep tweaking it and we keep seeing improvements. Some days it's just chaotic. One of the major issues is the tankers, the fuel tanks, tankers. We need to get them to be on the A2 platform as a truck coming system because they haven't joined it yet. We are working on Lagos State government to ensure they do because there are so many tank farms around. And most of the tank farms don't have adequate truck laybys, you understand, within the truck. So you find that within the terminal, all the trucks are parking on the main road. So that's one of the other challenges that we're trying to resolve. If we can get them to actually join the electronic call-up system, it means that all those tankers will not just be parking on the road until they are called up to do that. We hope that eventually one day somebody just wakes up and tells these tank farms to get out of the port location, because it's really
What you have there is the key apron. As you see, it's rather regular because it's on piles, the row of. But beyond here, what we have is a sand field. Now, because of the perforations there, the sand field over time washes away. Current up and down and washes away. So it has left very serious voids within here. And when the heavy plants and equipment come, this is what happens. So
basically
that's
the sheets in front are also corroded, and some of the sand is seeping out. We, from Lagos Channel Management, they tell us sometimes, look, we found piles of sand in this area, so we think that the sheet piles are corroded.
So Dendi, what have you done in respect to this?
Well, unfortunately, it is not our responsibility.
Unfortunately, we gave you people a wrong agreement.
Okay.
Very unfortunate.
So because you cannot maintain.
Yes, you cannot maintain facility. This is a minor work.
Yeah.
No, it's a huge work.
No, it's not a huge work. This is a minor work. In as much as NPA, yeah, they will still come and do some of that. But it's a minor work that you should do the palliative while the management
Do the main job.
Because you are making your money here.
If you allow all of this to keep happening without, then you are getting out of business.
You know the problem, this thing started
small,
and you allowed it because you believe that it's responsibility. Okay? That's the problem. I didn't mean that you tackled it. I saw some other ones that you should also tackle immediately right now. And you're allowing it because you believe that it's the responsibility of NPA. Maybe you are going to review your concession agreement, because it's wrong that you have these minor things and you're waiting for NPA to do it. Yes, the major ones definitely will be done, but not the minor ones. It's wrong. Frankly speaking, government doesn't run that way. We have to go back and look at the concession agreement and see why this thing shouldn't be your responsibility. Because this thing, when you were handed over these things were all intact.
and it's used over time.
So I suggest that you do the minor palliatives. While even if you do it, you now meet the MP and say, look, this is what I've done. You know, we can give you extension of 20 years, 30 years to keep your money. That's nice. You know, but I mean, it's your business area. It's your business area. If this place is failing, your business will fail. So it's the responsibility of the managed person who is making the money to keep the environment clean. Because I mean, to me, with having this thing, I think that this place should be closed down. Because it can't function like this based on safety. Look at the safety. Look at the safety. By giving you 2 weeks to come up with something, if not, emergency on safety.
One outside.
That's what we want.
Yes, this guy is still about 170 per day for now.
We're going to call terminal operators to the meeting. We have an idea. There's something we're thinking. And it's at the top. So I had suggested, okay, you know what? Customs would allow. Give us the specification. Terminal operators deploy your scanner. Then you recruit your investment. But you will manage it, you will maintain it, customs should run it. So we'll call you guys probably within the month, towards the end of the month. But we need to get that approval. So if we do that, then we don't need to wait for customs to provide these scanners that will just be available. And that means you will deploy that which is, which will meet your needs. So we'll come to you guys and propose that.
Expecting the invitation